Welcome to the No Fear podcast and the No Fear live broadcast. I'm your host, Tony Lauer. If you're into mindset training, performance psychology, personal development, you'll dig this new format. No Fear Live is a unique broadcast, and it's different from the No Fear podcast. We decided to go live because we wanted to create the opportunity to interact with people like you all over the world, where anyone can log in and ask questions, and in some cases, you may even get invited into the show. The great thing about the live broadcast is that it's much more personal for the listener. That's you. Remember, self-defense isn't always about a confrontation with someone else. The first and most important fight is winning the one inside your head. All right. The very infamous Dr. Andrew Locke. How you doing, my friend?
Totally honoured to be here, and what a great start to my day at 7 o'clock in the morning over here in Melbourne, Australia.
I love it. I love it. Listen, as you know, I mean, we've been friends for several months right now, and and fast friends. You know, we had some really good interactions, some really good chemistry. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show, but I want to tell people just to set people up. There's a couple of things. You're a formidable looking human, right? You fill up the entire screen. You're probably like 30, 40 feet away from the screen, but you're so fucking big that those of you who don't know Andrew, you should look up his bio, his resume. It's insane, what he's accomplished, what he's done, how long he's been in this industry. But I learned of him through, he's friends with everybody I know in the strength, fitness, rehab, all of that whole community that I follow. Everybody who is listening to No Fear knows that I've been dealing with, of course, nerve, neck, back pain and stuff for a long, long time. Years of scar tissue and injuries and other stuff, and always looking for people and programs to help me manage pain. What was interesting, I saw something Andrew posted online. I was like, holy shit, I got to hit this guy up. And we started this love affair on Instagram. And, but one of the things that I think, and then I need to tell the story. So I'm not even going to let him talk for 5 minutes. I'm going to tell the story because it's really important for everyone listening. About a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, something happened in my back or my body somewhere. I say my back. And I got to be careful with Andrew on there because he makes these very poetic corrections where everyone listening to this, especially my American friends, we say things like I've got a bad neck or I've got a bad back. And I'll let you insert here. If someone comes up to you and they say you got a bad back, what do you say to them?
You haven't got a bad back. In fact, you got a great back, but you got no ass and you got no abs, and your back's been doing all the work. So your back isn't bad at all. Your back's freaking great. Now get your ass and your abs back. Yeah.
So that, and hopefully it might take some of you over here to a minute to acclimate to the Australian accent. I've been going to Australia for so many years and have many Australian friends that my brain decodes it pretty quick. But
yeah, we won't be using subtitles today,
right? Anyways, we were talking online, and I said, look, the leg pain I have, bilateral leg pain, it fucks up. Nobody can fix me. And we had a couple of conversations. He happened to be in San Diego on a kind of his American tour, and we got together, and there was this one particular move. So like right away, I mean, he just looked at me, did some stuff, and he basically said the same thing. Your ass and your abs are off, and that's why you got all this pain. And he gave me a couple of exercises to do, and within a week, I started to feel differences, immediately. But there was one thing that I wanted to share. That is, whenever I talk about you, I share this story, and that was with my tactical getup. I had there's this one movement that I teach in our ground fighting sequence that one day I went to do it, and my stomach cramped, and then my hamstring locked up, and I couldn't fucking move. I mean, it was like insane, and the pain was so intense that I suddenly was afraid to do the move anymore. It was just crazy, and I tried a couple more times, and this was like a year before I met Andrew. And so he said, hey, what's one move? What's another move? Let's hit another move. Like next week, I'm going to come back and see you. And I said, well, and in the back of my mind, it was like this joke. So everyone like, listen carefully to this. This move I have not been able to do for a year. Totally terrified. Mr. Fear Management, I'm afraid to do this move. And I said, it's a tactical get up. And I was so afraid to do this move that I had to send Andrew a video of me doing it from a year before, because my body just wouldn't, neuromuscularly, I couldn't make the connection. So he kind of said, I want you to do these, it was 3 exercises you gave me, like 5 minutes of movement.
Yeah.
Do these for a week, and then we'll do the move next week. And you'll try it next Thursday, because I've seen you every Thursday. And I don't know if this story is getting too long, but I need to understand, everybody, that when he said, do this, and then you'll do the move next week when I come back, in my mind, I was like, there's no fucking way that this is going to work. There's no way that I'm going to do these moves for like literally less than, I think the sequence was about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And you said, just like do these at least once a day. If you can do more, fine. But I was going, okay, because I like to believe I'm coachable. But the voice in my head was like, fuck off. There's no way this is going to work. So I did it for a week. And then we got together, and he was like, okay, do the moves. You watch me do the movement. He said, do the tactical get up. And I was like my heart starts pounding. And I'm like, and the first one was a bit rusty because I hadn't done it over a year, and I was going through the fear loop. But then, boom, like it was back, and it freaked me out. And so let me segue in full circle here, because when we were talking offline here, there's a quote from, the great and well-known Joe DeFranco. He referred to you as the Winston Wolfe of rehab, the Winston Wolfe of rehab. And I was like, who the fuck is Winston Wolfe? And for those of you fans of Pulp Fiction, Andrew reminded me that was the Harvey Keitel character who, when you needed something fixed and no one else could do it, you called Winston Wolfe. So Andrew, the Winston Wolfe of rehab, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Well, Super Tony, it is, of course, morning, and we got our action.
I love that cup. I'll
have to get you one. So the solution to your problem at that point was, I just had to understand the apex predator that you are. And I'm watching and seeing how you move, and I'm also, as you remember, finding out how you think.
Yes.
So I asked you about the visualization of doing the movement, and you realized that you couldn't actually do it in your head, even without doing it physically.
Yeah.
So the movements that I gave you, they were actually components of the get up using the muscle groups, which is the isolation. And then I didn't give you 15 seconds to think about it. I made you integrate them immediately while everything was still hot.
Yeah.
And didn't give you time to process other than, I know you've done that movement so many times that you actually have integrated that into your neurology. I just had to wake up the physiology and the neurology, and you kicked his ass.
Guys, I need you to I pray. I mean, I hear this clearly, and also while I'm thinking about this, the show producer in me is going, is everyone understanding? And comment in the chat if you're understanding, Andrew. If you need us to re-articulate it, because that is so profound and so different than any other type of healer, rehab, PT. Everyone always, I mean, this industry's evolved a lot where now people love to talk about compensation, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, this. But it used to be, if your elbow hurt you here, you worked on something here, and smart people went, it might not be the elbow that's the problem, it's somewhere else. But you integrated something that no one had ever done, and that was my wheelhouse. Was you started talking about fear, right? Like in the in our first video chats, like I was like, holy shit, like this guy's talking about the connection between the psychology of fear and that like the emotional psychological permission to either defend yourself or to do the tactile get up. And even though I was so close to the pain, I couldn't access the system that I share with other people. But I don't think I would have been able to. I mean, had I not done those exercises. So like you said, you reawaken the physiological, the kinesiological, but had you not connected it to the psychology, I might not have been able to get up either.
Well, one of the beautiful parts was the first time we met. You mentioned to me that the pain was so bad that it was 8 out of 10. And I remember saying to you, that's total bullshit. It wasn't 8 out of 10. And my job there is to confront you at that point and say, your pain scale has no relationship to your reality. Because at 8 out of 10, you're in the ambulance. You're making noises, screams. You can't articulate the language because 10 out of 10 doesn't have a 10.1.
Right.
The 0 to 10 scale, which people use. And so there was part of the reframing was immediately when you gave me the 8, and I said, no, it's bullshit, it's 8. And then I gave you the reframing. You then said, yeah, about a 4 or 5.
Right.
Already we're getting in each other's heads there. Because good, now I've got you taking yourself away from it's up here to, okay, it's down here. When you know it's down here, you can start to move.
Yeah.
But you won't move if it's 8. If it's 8 in your head, you ain't moving. Now I can bring you down to 4.
It's interesting. And gang, if you're a coach on this call, if you're a trainer, and not just, immediately go follow and consume Andrew's content on Instagram, because he literally gives away gold and exercises and things that if you incorporated them into your training. But if you're working with any type of physical therapist or exercise physiologist, any of these people, if they're not following him or integrating this stuff, it's probably taking you a lot longer, or you're having almost no success. The most powerful things for me were just covered in this first 10 minutes of the call, where it wasn't like do this move, which it was like get inside your fucking head. And why this resonates so much with me is because as you all know, I've been training and teaching people for decades, and I tell people, if you don't manage the fear, you don't manage the fight. And the fight metaphor here is the exercises that if I ask Andrew, how many reps and for how much longer do I need to do these banded hip flexor things, he's going to say the minimum is this every day, and then the rest of your life until you die. Like you need, but tactical athletes and aggressive athletes, a lot of us don't think that way. We're quick fix, and we think, hey, fix me, and then I can go on and get another injury.
Well, that's because the cause of the original problem has just been addressed. And as soon as you stop addressing the cause, you can't go back to reinstating the things that caused it in the first place. So you're a human being, a Homo sapiens, and this is where you and I intersect so well, is we've taken what appear to be complex issues and we've gone and dived deep and found the simple Homo sapiens, the evolved Homo sapiens. And I talk about this as being, it's a 4.4 million year process to have got from our first ancestor that ever walked upright to where we are today. Now, understanding the process of how the body's structure changed gives me an understanding of its function. So we're the only primate on Earth that actually has a lumbar lordosis, and that's the curvature in your lumbar spine. We have that for a specific purpose. That's because we're the apex predator that walks on 2 feet. And we run. And that pelvis, that lumbar pelvis construction, has that purpose. And most people sit on their ass for most of their life. So instead of, shall we say, a straight line from the shoulders down to the feet, you've got a 90-degree angle suddenly came in at your hip. didn't evolve to do that. We haven't adapted to do that. That's not our evolutionary survival mechanism. So after you've done that for about 40 years, and you'll notice that too, all the guys over about 40, who's got no ass? It's gone. It hasn't been used for so many years, and that's it. So that's where we both go to the evolutionary construction of a human being. You've gone to the reflexes, the psychology, the behavior, and I go to basically the physiology and the biology of what is that body supposed to serve? All right, you're not doing that. Well, you're going to do it for the rest of your life then. Because as soon as you stop, you're back.
Are there some, like most of the work you do in terms of education is very specialized, right? So, and we'll get into some of your courses and stuff like that. But a lot of the, there's probably a number of people who listen to my show who are coaches and trainers and hopefully know who you are. If not, they're going to know who you are now and they'll discover that. But the average tactical athlete, a martial artist, a cop, somebody in the military, are there, this is a stupid question, not are there, what are the classic things that we need to always be doing as part of our maintenance? Are there like some like these 10 things you got to do? Do you have a list of those things?
Yeah, there's an approach which I like to look at, which is human beings only exist in 3 dimensions of movement. You got forward, backward motion, you've got side to side motion, and you've got rotational motion. They're the only 3 planes of existence. You want to jump upwards? You're just applying forward, backward motion to the earth, and you're going to break its hold on you by applying enough force, so you're going to go that way. So there's only 3 planes of motion. And what you have to do is you have to make sure those 3 planes of motion are strong each day. So there's the wonderful Professor Stuart McGill. He produced a thing called the famous McGill Big 3. He's the finest, most published spinal biomechanist of all time. A great fellow. Now, there's no mistake that he's come up with 3 exercises because they actually approach the 3 planes of motion. I just progressed them. I did the lock base 5, which is I make you do an arse exercise to start with, and then I make you do a front plank, a side plank, and a shoulder tap movement. Now, front plank, I've just set up your control of the forward, backward motion. Side plank, I've given you control of side motion. And with shoulder taps, I've just started you working against the anti-rotation motion. And then I give you the last arse exercise. So now I've got 3 planes of motion and your arse has started to work. Now you're probably ready to start to integrate into whatever warm-ups and things you do for your particular art or requirement. Now, I've had snipers who work in the military, and one of the things is you can't sort of get up and do your exercises. But I've had them put bands around their knees when they go to lie down, and they can be there for hours and hours and just push you out against the band.
Right.
And guess what? Their ass turns on. And then when they get up off the ground, oh shit, my back doesn't hurt like it used to. And this is a very simple thing. We do it with the tank drivers. You know what? You stick a band. You can't take much equipment into a tank, but you can take a band.
Right. And
you can sit there and you can do your glute exercises sitting there. Takes no problem. And the tank drivers I've done that with, they go, man, I just feel so good now. Install the work of the glutes.
And the 2 glute exercises that you have people do in those motions, is it just is it specific to them or it's classic across the species?
The species has some unnegotiables. This is how we are all essentially genetically expected to be. We evolved. Now, the whole thing about it is hip extension, which is the ability to walk. Well, you pretty much lose that hip extension if you sit on your ass all day. And then you're going to compensate at your lower back. Now, the thing about the banded work there, the base 5 is the glute max especially, propels your hips forward. So it goes in the forward-backward motion. But if your forward-backward motion has been disturbed, then I add in the 2 other motions, rotation and abduction. And that's what the first exercise, that's how I came up with the lock clam. It initiates the gluteal action before I put in the extension. So then the compensation is not there.
The guys, all of these exercises on a regular basis, clear demos with Julie and other athletes online. So if you guys are going, how am I going to learn this, or what's this look like? So much of this stuff is on Andrew's Instagram page.
Oh yeah, it's pinned to the top of the page.
Yeah,
that's the one.
There you go. Go to that. Go follow that stuff. It's funny. I was getting a massage a few months ago from some specialist who was also she'd done all sorts of certs and stuff like that. And I showed her your page. I was trying to get her to come to the workshop that we got Nikki in, and she just couldn't make it that weekend because I was telling her, anytime I meet somebody who's in the let's call it the pain management business from my side, I'll talk about you. And I showed her the lock clam, that modification, and she was blown away by it. Just that shift, how simple it is.
That's our life, isn't it? It really is, taking away and clearing everything and seeing the simplicity. I mean, both fear and pain serve evolutionary purposes, don't they?
They're very connected.
So with pain is really, it's the it is either the input from injury or the perception of possible injury, when it really comes down to the biology of it.
It's interesting. I just thought about this, that, hang on a second, because I'm just literally downloading this from the universe right now, is that, there's a part of, when I talk about fear to people, I tell them, like, fear, of course, starts the movie in your mind, the negative story. You've now cast yourself in a movie where you're the victim in this fucking horror movie that you're producing in your mind. That's psychological fear. The fear of the danger coming at you also triggers the startle response to protect your head and push away danger. So in both cases, when you change your relationship with fear, you enhance your survivability. If you understand what's going on in your mind, you can change that narrative, you can change that conversation. And if you understand what's going on with your body, you can convert it and weaponize it, because the psychological fear is non-conscious. You don't ever say, I'd like to be really scared right now. I'll think, you don't ever do that. And no one ever flinches. No one ever says in advance of a flinch now. It bypasses all conscious thought. But what I was thinking is, as you said that, the relationship between fear and pain, what if pain is the physical sensation of what the psychological fear is in the body?
Very much.
Meaning it's not real, it's something else, and it's now sending you a message, and if you study it, you can do something with it.
There's an intersection of both. When you look at pain, there's biological examination and there's psychological examination. I ever had one patient who came and saw me, and it was really interesting. It was just he walked in, he fell face down on the bed, and that was the end of it. He was in hospital for 2 weeks. And I'd done a fairly significant examination and chat with him, fairly deep. And I spoke to the doc who was in the hospital about a few days later. And I said, it was really strange. I said, he didn't give me any issues in his life. Everything was going well. And his MRI scan was about the most beautiful you've ever seen. And the doc said, no, he didn't tell you, mate. He said, the morning he came and saw you, his business partner had drained his bank accounts and left with all the money. His house was the mortgage for the business. He's about to lose that, and his wife's just left him. Now, you want to know why he couldn't get up and why his back was hurting? He had no more capacity. So his back was his way out. That's it. I'm out of here. I just can't deal with anything else. And he sat down the toilet, and his back hurt, and that was the end of it. Overwhelmed.
Weighted the world on him, and he collapsed. Yeah.
So there's where the behavior can sometimes, and the as we say, the psychosocial factors, they're in there. But every human interaction is a psychosocial experience, isn't it?
It's amazing, and you how interconnected and how the English language is kind of tricky, because without stress, you can't build muscle, but the wrong type of stress or the wrong speed or amount of stress can also fuck you up.
Distress.
Yeah.
There's eustress, which is positive, and distress, which is the negative.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good reframe. That's one of the things. That's one of the things that I appreciate most about any conversation or interaction with you, is there's, I always describe you as part philosopher, part psychologist, and then the work. But it's actually, it needs to be all of it. And as I say that, I think about all of the people who teach under our system, right? Where I talk about the SPEAR system, and sometimes I wish there wasn't an acronym, even though the acronym is cool, but it's the human weapon system. It's just you can't talk about it without including the mind, body, spirit, the holistic element.
Oh, we exist with it. And that's another part of the interesting modern human too, is if you look at your ancestral heritage, when our ancestors were out there on the savannah surviving, if they had an injury or pain, there was no community support to stop them from doing things. They had to keep moving.
Right.
Because they didn't move, they wouldn't eat, and they would die. So
Right.
in an evolutionary sense, the human body, when it has pain from injury, is not precluded from movement. In fact, it's imperative to keep moving, because that's your evolutionary necessity. Whereas in a modern society, we're given the opportunity and support. Oh, you hurt? Go lie down for a couple of days or a week. And there's a problem that actually disconnects with what happens with the way we actually should be moving. Because once you set up a chronic pain mechanism by stopping people moving, you're not integrating yourself back into movement again, which is what you were supposed to do to survive. Here we are, as I said, 4.4 million years at least, and suddenly in the last couple of hundred years, everyone's on their ass and getting looked after.
Yeah.
It's not the way we are.
That's an interesting take. One of the things we've talked about a lot, and I wanted you to share with our audience, is this idea of why we have so much pain. Why not just tactical athletes, but why do people have so much pain? You identified it. One of it is we're sitting on our ass all the time. But are there other factors, or is it just as simple as that as soon as cars were invented and offices and we got industrialized, we went from working in the fields or riding a horse to, you're driving to work, you're sitting on a bus, you're sitting on a train, you're sitting in an office, you're sitting in a meeting. And then, and as important as sleep is, you're still not moving while you're sleeping in the practical, tactical sense.
Oh, that's exactly, you really got it there. That's what's happened, is that our physiology, our biology, our biomechanics are all set up about being an apex predator. Now, part of survival of a Homo sapiens was you had to decrease calorie expenditure wherever possible, because there wasn't a lot of calories. You had to go hunt them. Now, the body that evolved to decrease calorie expenditure was the one that was going to survive as well. A mechanism there by which you had an advantage. You used less energy. So the human body actually tends to use the passive structures. That's what we call the ligaments and the fascia and the things that muscles are expensive to use. That's your V8 fuel in your car. So when we move, we actually are programmed to move in fashions which are calorie inexpensive. Now, when you go to pick up something off the ground, you tend not to use your muscle. Your actual muscle turns off as you approach the ground, and you use elastic recoil to come back up. A lot of studies on that. It's called myoelectric silence. That's a very efficient way to move if you're on your freaking feet all day. But if you've been on your ass all day and you go to bend forward and your motor pattern there is corrupted because you haven't been using your hips well anyway, then this hunter-gatherer in a modern society bends over, and because their pelvis has been in posterior pelvic tilt for days, and the nucleus in their disc has moved backwards as a result, and it's been degenerating and you can't feel it. That last little millimeter, yeah, that'll get you. And it was only set up because you weren't on your feet walking, moving, and running, which increases the nutrition to the discs. And it also centers the nucleus in the spine. So, yeah, we're set up to hurt. That's why 80% of all adults have lower back pain in their life. And 90+% of those will have a second episode and more.
That last 5 minutes was so fucking epic. All of you need to tag your friends and tell them to listen from 26 minutes to 30 minutes on that, because that, like, my brain was, I had fireworks going off in my head there. Holy fuck. Some of the language, the corrupted movement. Wow, that's powerful, man. And you just think about everyone listening to this. When do we throw our back out? It's not during a fight. It's picking up a fucking TV remote.
It sure is.
Turning to lower the radio or some shit like that. We do something when our body just fucking snaps. That was fascinating.
Yeah, because our discs in our spine, they don't have nerves in the disc, which makes sense, doesn't it? You wouldn't want to be feeling freaking pressure all day. Right. So it's only in the last like 1/32 of an inch, even less, that there's a couple of nerves around the outside, like a spider's web. And you won't know what's happening inside because shit, you're not supposed to. Right. But you'll know when you get the breach of the wall.
Wow. Well, that just explained why so many people are hurt. And I can't believe that number, 80%.
80% of all adults will experience lower back pain at least once in their life. And it'll get better in 4 weeks in 80% of cases. It'll be better in 8 weeks in 90+% of cases. And the recurrence is about 90% for second and third episodes. And here comes a beautiful part. You ever met somebody who's had a spinal fusion? You know what? Spinal fusions have a 50% failure rate at 5 years. It's not failure of the goddamn fusion. It's failure of the rehabilitation professionals not to identify the original cause of the first fusion. You have to identify the cause of the first one so you don't get a second or third one.
Yeah.
And there's the failure. It's not the surgery. It's the freaking rehab process.
That's so obvious when you say it, because if you're not changing what created the environment for the injury or the event, then why wouldn't it happen again? Duh.
It's so unnegotiable. That's where you strip things back as well, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, wow, my brain is firing in 100 different directions. Let's talk a little bit. Let's like shift gears and shift the channel a little bit.
Sure.
Let's talk about. I found it fascinating. Part of your training, you went deep into to the point of even working with cadavers to understand the human body. Right?
Man, I love cutting up bodies.
Okay, let's add some context to that.
And I've got a few people I fucking want to do it to too, while they're alive.
Yeah. The beep 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 beeping out. We're beeping out stuff. This just got XXX.
Yeah. So yes, the cadaver work is one of the most beautiful parts of the study programs I've been on. Yeah, I spent 3 years in cadaver labs at universities, and there's nothing in the human body pretty much that I haven't seen. So when people say, and it's not uncommon, you'll hear somebody espouse and say, we don't know much about lower back problems. I just say, mate, speak for yourself. I pretty much know all there is in it. It just took a lot of study. There's no muscle under there that doesn't exist that you've never seen before. There's no weird nerve that doesn't exist. There's not. This stuff's been so clearly established for hundreds of years. It's just there seems to be a modern take, which it means that you sound smarter if you say you don't know. No, if you know, you know.
Have you in the context of that? Have you had How many people have you treated? You have a rough estimate?
A rough estimate's 120,000 patients over the career so far.
And how long's the career?
About 30 years now. I just had a look at my graduation. It's actually, 30 years next year.
Nice. Congratulations, man.
Now, I'm going to give you a bit of fun.
Yeah.
The day I graduated, everyone else went to hospitals and I got to work in the best sports medicine clinic in the country. So here I am, a new grad, and I walk into this wonderful facility and I meet the boss. The boss is a very formidable lady, a lot shorter, very strong. So she tells me to go in the office. Meet her in the office. She doesn't invite me to sit down. She just turns and looks at me and says, "Your job being here is to become the best in the world at something." And she goes, "And I'm the best in the world at shoulders. So you go choose something else." And that was it. Go, get out.
Wow.
And that was it. Day one, become the best in the world at something. Well, that was it. That's the career path. Never stop.
What a mentor. That's a great, man, she just nailed you with a friggin' directive, and she might have said that to 1,000 other students and they just went, "What's she talking about?" Right? You took that very seriously.
Oh gosh, yeah. I was in total awe of her. Her ability with shoulders was outstanding. She couldn't rehabilitate a bench press if it saved her life, but at least she could diagnose better than an MRI.
Right.
And so, of course, that was it. I had to go into surgery with surgeons quite often, and the surgeons will be having fun with you. Okay, what's this structure here over here? Where does that go to? What's that nerve supply? You are always under the microscope, working in those high pressure environments.
Yeah,
and you either survive or you don't.
So that's amazing. Just for some context, guys, I had an MRI done of my back several years ago, and when I went to the hospital, the doctor literally said, "You've got severe stenosis, and when would you like the surgery?" Like literally in the same sentence. Wanted to book me, and like I got hot, my heart started pounding, I wanted to throw up. I'm like, holy shit. And I said to the guy, "Okay, I'd like to think about this and maybe get a second opinion." But had I been one of those people who were like just both intimidated by the medical profession, but also so afraid that you just, you put your life in someone else's opinion, I might have had that surgery years ago, and I know that I wasn't changing the conditions that were setting up the problems, because as I understand it, almost everyone gets spinal stenosis to some degree as they age.
They sure will. Yeah.
But here's the thing that I want to tell you is that Andrew and I went out to dinner, and I got the after action, the brief of the MRI, and I said, "Would you read this?" And I was so scared. And we're reading like at dinner, and he's literally chuckling and laughing, like chuckling and laughing, going, "Now this," and I cannot tell you how just having someone that said, "I've worked on people that have shit so much worse than this, and they're good." And just this idea of you don't have a bad back, you have a good back, you don't have fucking glutes, you don't have abs. They've stopped working to support this. That's why you've got this pain here. Where no one had ever said that in that way. Or what's your pain level like? Oh, 8 out of 10. No, 10 out of 10 is you're dead. 8 out of 10 is you're fucking screaming and you're attacking EMS people, give me drugs. What's your pain really at? Because we're having a conversation in your backyard and you're telling me you're 8 out of 10. And I realized I'm like this hysterical kid. Like I've amped this up in my mind where I go, well, maybe the pain is like a fucking like right now I'm in pain. And I'm reminded, if someone said, "How's your back?" If I'm being dramatic, and we all tend to be dramatic sometimes, I'm speaking for myself and just, like where we go, "Oh, fuck, my back's killing me today." Really? Well, you don't look dead. And it's so funny because you heard, I think you've heard me tell this story, if not, where just the psychological fear is working with an athlete. And she says to me, when the fear spike hits me, I feel like I'm going to die. I am so scared I want to die. I feel like I'm going to die. And I said to her in this Zoom consult, I said, how long have you had this, like this presence of death in your life? She said, anytime I compete. I said, how long have you been competing? She goes, 10 years. I said, so you feel like 2 days before, 3 days before the event, the fear hits you like a specter and it hits you Wednesday and it's like you're going to die. And she's like, yeah. I said, and how many times have you died in the last 10 years? And she goes, what? I go, how many times have you died? She goes, well, never. It's a figure of speech. And like, it was this joke. I just realized now that's what I do. When I go on my back, I can't believe it. Where it's like, no, wait a minute. It's a fucking 2. Shut up.
Yeah, it's not killing you. No.
Did you do your work?
That's such a good one because, I had the good fortune. I had a friend over who's his name's Chris Bones, and he's one of Hicks and Gracie's students.
Nice.
And now he just taught 8 hours of seminars and classes, and he comes in and he is bent over and he's hurting, and he is really hurting. But the amusing thing is, it's sort of like, oh, fuck it, I'll be all right. And you're looking and going, oh, dude, you really, do you need anything? No, I'll be all right. Well, next day, he shoots another 8-hour video, and you look at it and you go, you're moving perfectly. It's the ability to understand and put things into a perspective. Yeah, it hurt, but guess what? It hurt last time I did this too. I'll be working tomorrow. Yeah. That's what you can tend to find with people who have a good relationship with the experience of pain and function.
Yeah. And there's that intersection of the psychology of fear again. It's your self-talk.
Well, when people, like you said it, which is really a good one, this is the first interaction. When people come to see me, I usually say, okay, so why are you here to see me and what is your problem? And they often grab their MRI report and go, I've got it. And I just stop them. I say, no, I didn't ask what you got. I said, what's your problem? What can't you do? I didn't ask what your diagnosis was. Why are you here to see me? What is it you can't do? All right, good. That's what we do. We'll look at scans later. They're last.
Do you, on that topic, because it's an interesting psychology, because I realize now that was your MO, getting into my head and creating that trust was
What's your problem?
What's your problem and what is it you can't do? And it was very specific, where after your first assessment of me, you said, well, your fucking ass is turned off. That's the big thing. And then right away that is what can't you do? And I said, well, give me one move that you can't do. And there's an interesting psychology there of, I'm sure you've heard this, like, what's the best workout? Well, the one that you're going to do, right? What's the best nutrition plan, AKA diet? The one you're going to stick to. And so I think there's an interesting psychology, not so much of a question here, just an observation of working with an athlete. And I always use the term, everyone's an aging athlete. Everyone listening to this is an aging athlete. And your event might be locomotion. I need to go pick up my grandkid. I need to walk to the car. I need to take the stairs instead of the elevator. So we're all aging athletes in some way, whether you're competing in just life or you're a jiu-jitsu coach or you're a cop or you're whatever. But if you think about it that way, then your responsibility to your physical wellness and your mental wellness, or I like the term, everyone talks about physical fitness, but not mental fitness, becomes significant there. So it's more of an observation, Andrew, that I liked how you asked me for something I didn't believe I could do, and then a week later said, here, you just did this. And unspoken in there is, are you going to continue to do the other exercises now that I've just proven to you this system works?
Well, you did the work, as you were saying, twice a day, every day from the moment I left. That was the deal.
Yeah.
You do this twice a day, every day. And that's why I always say to patients when I see them the second time, show me the exercises. I'm not going to show you what I told you to do. Show me the exercises. Show me what you've been doing. And if they look confused at me, I know they haven't been doing what they should do.
Right.
And the rule then is I tell them, if you haven't done your exercises, I charge you double the amount for wasting my time. And at $500 a consultation, it's $1,000 next time.
Right.
So if that motivates you, do them.
Yeah. Do them because you need them, man. Fucking do them because you need them.
And one of the good things about you too and your history, which helped me, was you've broken so many things previously that you have a good understanding and a relationship of actually tapping into the Tony who, when he was injured, just kept working. And that was the one you were able to relate so well. Yeah, I've broken this, I've done that, and my back hurts. Well, yeah, guess what? Tony's functioned pretty damn well with some significant challenges because he had to find a way. So I knew that Tony was under there anyway. There's a person there who finds a way.
Yeah. I like when you talk about me in third person when I'm in the room. I'm like,
it's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Tony is listening to this, isn't Tony? All I'm thinking about is as soon as we get off the call, I got to run into the garage and do a bunch of exercises.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Are there, well, I said I was going to talk about this offline because my wife asked you about it when she saw it, and it's very prominent in here. So complete subject change. Most people watching this, and if you're only listening to the audio, Andrew's got a giant chain around his neck with a padlock on it. And the story about it is wild. And he doesn't take it off, and he wears it everywhere. And if you don't know him and you don't know his reputation and you just see a picture, you're like, what the fuck is this? So what's the story with the this chain and padlock on your neck?
Well, so we got to do the Reader's Digest version, okay? We're going to cut it down a little bit there. Is that I was always after a big silver chain, and I went a lot of places around the world and I couldn't see the right one. And in July the 4th, 2018, maybe it was 2016, shit, it was a bit of a time back. I was in Los Angeles and there was not very many stores are open and shops, July the 4th. And I'm down around the Sunset area, and there happens to be a Leatherman store happens to be open. Well, that looks interesting. And you walk in there, yep, the GIMP masks are on the wall and all sorts of wonderful dungeon stuff. And there in the display case is the chain that I've always looked for with the lock. So that's it. Got to buy that one. Now, after I started wearing it, I just got a lot of DMs and messages from guys asking me, was I taken? And usually from guys whose avatars, included big hairy beards and words bear and shit on there. So, yeah, apparently it's a sign in a certain part of that community, which means that I'm a taken man and my husband has the key.
Right.
Well, I'm taking it back. I got my girl Julie, all right?
Right. And I've met Julie, and she's not a man.
That's right.
That's a classic story. Well, you got a lot of balls to wear that. If I can extend that joke a little bit,
you can. I have balls on the back of my car too. I got truck nuts.
Do you?
Oh, you got to have balls on the back of your car, man. You got to let people know.
Nice. Somebody just sent me a picture of that recently. So that's pretty wild. Let's shift back in. You've trained military, professional athletes, entrepreneurs. Who do you like working with the most? Is it? Do you have a
Yeah, I love the military mindset and the military people, because there are often people there whose problems can be solved fairly quickly. And the challenge that you get with that population is they do what they have to for everybody else on their team. So if they're injured, they're not sitting there asking for a Band-Aid. They are trying to look after the other parts of their complete unit.
Right.
Now, after years and years of doing that, these are people who sometimes have had a significant issue that has not been correctly addressed. And whether it's military or law enforcement, it almost comes down to the fact that there tends not to be as much support once you've left. And so I look at these people who have done amazing things and suffered significant injuries, but still gone and kept on doing what they had to do. And so they're the people I do like to work with a lot, because they're the ones who sometimes there is a simple solution, but no one's actually given it to them. And they've worked hard enough. They've served and done the job for everybody else. So what can I do to help? And that's a part of the population I love the most, is that group.
Yeah. And they're also, and me too, as well. I've worked with many different populations, and there's if they're really in front of you and not been told to go, because sometimes I'll teach and someone will go to this class, and so they're like this. But the people that actually show up, they're so, because they're so mission centric, and which makes them really good listeners, coachable, and then they're driven. If you say do this like this to the best of their ability, they're going to execute. They're going to deploy.
They certainly will, and they're just looking for the way to do it.
Right.
And that's where you love. And mate, hey, guess what? It's not that complex. Here are the missing components. You do this, and universally, they do feel better and they move better, and life's back on. So that's a great population to work with, because we appreciate everything that they've done. So they're great, and the celebrity things, they're fun. But you know what? It's somebody's grandmother who comes in who's had a problem and nobody else has fixed, and she turns out that she can actually do the work I asked to do and changes her life. They're great ones. You never forget them.
Yeah. Is there? This is kind of a weird question, because the answer could be yes or no. But have you ever worked with somebody where it's I don't know why I'm asking it, because it's a stupid question, because I'll ask it. Where someone's issue just stumped you, where you were like, dude.
Occasionally, sometimes they don't stump me. I just know that the problem's not as much physical as it is that they're serving a purpose by being so-called injured. So they might be serving a social group paradigm within a group, within a family, that being the injured, I can't work part of that family actually serves that the mother looks after them and things like that.
Wow.
I'm not going to be looking after them. I'll see them a couple of times, but my answer to those ones would actually be it's a lifestyle change.
Right.
So, they exist. They're the tough one. And if I really am stumped, I often say, look, I know a Chinese doctor, and he's not going to think in a medical sense. He's going to think outside the box that I might use. I'd appreciate his input.
Right.
So I tend to say I can see things in a Western sense, but there's not many of those, so I can't think of the last one.
Yeah.
But I have seen it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about, so when I met you last
July.
Was it July?
Yeah.
You were working furiously on some online education, and I'm hoping that when we share this, that the people on here, because I know everybody here goes to some sort of physio, like everyone gets injured and gets some PT work and stuff like that. But I hope people share this and inspire other people to look at your work and your messaging, because it's when I listen to you, it inspires me to think about ways that I even coach people in the self-defense stuff. So I appreciate that, but most of your work for me as a layperson seems to be directed at the professionals. The Instagram, you can get ideas, you can see the exercises, but you're kind of like target focus for your training are the professionals. Talk a little bit about the courses and the goal of the course and how people can learn more about that.
Yeah, it's a part of that day one graduation was being told to become the best in the world at something. Well, for 30 years now, I haven't stopped trying to understand lower back disorders and injuries and their solutions. And I know that all the new graduates, actually within physical therapy, the failure rate is after 5 years after graduation, 50% of physical therapists have left the profession. Now, the failure there is they've entered a career with an expectation of having a great life. but they are undereducated. The universities failed dramatically and spectacularly. They don't have great clinicians teaching. They've got academics who sit on their ass and read statistics. So my job now is to become the person who, if you want to survive your career, here's my course. I'll give you 12 months of mentoring, and I'll cover the 30 years of work that I've done to basically make you spectacularly confident and able to solve the problems you thought you should be able to solve. So that's the Lumbar Spine Leadership Academy, and that's about next week on the launch. Just all platformed, and it's up there now, just cleaning it up. But the idea there is that, I like to educate professionals to know that all the things that you were told you couldn't understand at university, that was just the academics couldn't understand it. But us clinicians, people with experience who have to deal with human beings every single day, we know what we're doing, and there's a lot of science behind it. Hey, there it is. That's me, huh?
It's the course.
Yeah, that's the course. And of course, I'll be back in the US from June onwards and running shoulder courses, of course, knee, hip, and spine. Out there to help the professionals. And that's the job, whether it's a personal trainer, whether it's I've had neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons attend. Have people who don't even have any profession who attend. It's all there for education and helping.
And is that just a link in your Instagram bio? How do they find it?
Yeah, that's on the actual site is unitedhealthed.com.
Alicia,
that's the one. That's where an osteopath, Danny Antonellis, Julie, my girl, and myself. Julie's got a master's in nursing, and we do education for professionals. There's a membership group on United Health Ed, and then within there's my special education, which is for the next level for professionals. So that's a great little mission we all have. We love our work helping people, helping professionals to help other people.
I love that. Yeah. I've got hang on a second, I'm just reading this. Here's a question from Michael, who's on almost every single podcast. Here's a question for you.
Gotcha, Mike.
So I'm gonna read it because there's some people who are only listening to it, not watching the video. So yes. Michael asked a question for Andrew. Am I right in thinking that you are saying that what we are told are structural problems are in fact muscular problems?
Muscle is part of the structure. So if we look at that protoplasm that's covered in skin, everything under the skin is part of structure. So whether it's a blood vessel, whether it's a nerve, whether it's a bone, and whether it's a muscle, they're all part of the structure.
Okay. And Michael posted another question: if you were just clarifying the semantics around that, or was there something more specific that you were looking for in that?
So I'll be reading into Michael's thought there. If you're looking at a scan, and the scan has something that says we have a disc desiccation, we have a disc bulge, there's a structural issue there. But the relationship is the muscular components that's the active system. Passive systems, things you can't contract. You can't contract bones, you can't contract discs. Muscular systems, they're the things that move the bones. So the two are totally synergistic, and then you have your nervous system, which is your software, which runs the components all together. So everything has got its place within that, paradigm where we can be static influencing structure, we can be active and dynamic influencing structure, and that all comes under the nervous system software.
Nice. Okay.
How good's that?
Yeah. So let me, Michael, hopefully that helped. That was much more of a philosophical 30,000 foot view answer, but I don't know if you're looking for something else.
So the solution there to back problems, for example, is you've got 3 planes of human movement: forward, backwards, side to side, and rotation. And you have 3 components which are related to that, which are your active system, passive system, and your neurology. You've got 6 factors, and if you know your 6 factors, you can solve pretty much any structural, any pain issue outside of psychology.
Cool. Okay. So we don't have any. I sent a message out to the group going, "Hey, who's got?" And Michael popped this up here. He said, "That's a big answer. Thank you." So there you go.
But it's simple.
Yeah. Gang, if you've got any questions for Andrew, grab them now while it's live. If you got stuff, I posted here. I said, I can't believe I'm the only one in pain. Is it just me? No, nobody. I have a bad back, and it's like an 8 out of 10 today. Just kidding.
You have a great back. It's just the rest of you, huh?
Right, the rest of my ass.
That back's been carrying you for so long.
Yeah.
We'll thank it for its great work and appreciate it. That's the motto of my work: is we don't weaken our strengths, we strengthen our weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so weakness cannot be tolerated is usually on the back of my t-shirt. And that's why when someone says my hip flexors are tight, and they're providing you with stability. So don't weaken your strength. Don't go ahead and stretch it. Find out why they're tight. And they're probably tight because the opposing muscle group, which is your hip extensors, aren't working. Well, if we make them strong, now you've got two structures strong instead of weakening your strength, which was your hip flexors being tight.
Damn it. You're gonna love this next question. This is Dave Haynes. He's a active duty police officer, but he's also a certified spear instructor. Ironically, he asked this. Like most LEOs, I have major issues with my hip flexors. What is the best course of repair?
I see we're channeling each other out here. So hip flexors. Well, you are the hunter-gatherer who should be on his feet a lot. And you may be sitting on your butt a lot in the car. You may be sitting at the desk doing the paperwork all the time. And when you're tired, you go home and you sit in front of the couch. So the hip flexors are shortened most of the time in a shortened position. And if you want to lengthen something, try strengthening the opposing muscle group. And that is glute work. And often there's so much dysfunction there that you can't go directly into hip extension. You can use some of the abduction work. That's why we do banded work quite often. And it's all about getting the strength of the hip extensors. Human bodies are pretty straightforward. If you flex your bicep, your tricep has to become inhibited to allow the elbow to bend. If your hip flexors are tight, well, if you want to loosen them, strengthen the opposing muscle group and the tension has to come out of your hip flexors. So they have to let go. So there is the best thing. On United Health Ed and on my page, there's probably a fair bit on the mechanisms to get there.
That's awesome, and it's Dave. I've got the similar stuff there. Working on fixing that. I look forward to your sled
arriving. The sled push is a great exercise.
Really?
There's hip extension. After you've done your glute work, you start driving that. Yeah. Guess what? That's going to be a really good one.
Okay. Excellent. Because you're in that forward position. Your hip flexors have to chill out.
Well, you're going to have to push that thing that way. So what's going to drive it? It's going to be your glutes.
Yeah. Nice. Beautiful. Anyone else got any questions? Going once, going twice. Fire that in there. You're a massive man. You train a lot. Have you? I mean, you're always doing this stuff. What's your personal relationship with pain and injury? Have you fucked yourself up and had to build yourself back? Is it just like everyone gets fucked up and then you fix it? Because it's different. Like so much about this. It's almost like, are you Nostradamus, right? Like you go, oh, in 3 months from now, if I don't fix this is going to happen.
Not really, but I haven't had a day without pain in, I don't know, 15, 20 years. Living is pain.
Okay.
I got osteoarthritis. I'm deemed totally and permanently disabled due to thumb arthritis. That's why I had to switch out of being a hands-on person to being an intellectual and exercise-based person. It was the gift of injury. I can't even push blue tack into the wall with a thumb. The arthritis there is so significant. Now, Julie said to me the other day, "No, you got pain?" I said, "Oh, yeah, of course. Not like I talk about it. It's not like I've got to think about it. I know what it is. It's not threatening me. It just freaking hurts."
Right.
And, I'm not going to stop doing what I do because it's not threatening me.
You guys see this? Like, this is fucking deep philosophy. Like seriously, light bulbs are going off in my head, and selfishly, like this talk was very important to me because I'd gotten to a point after October was very heavy training. We talked about this a little bit a couple days ago, where what I did with our camp. Hang on a second. Hey,
He wants to join in and talk. That's all. The dog's out again.
hang on a sec.
They like to chat as well.
Yeah, no, it's we were talking a couple days ago. I had a serious amount of courses and training, and I had in the back of my head, I was worrying about how my body would handle the evidence-based scenario training course, our combatives camp, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I've been working through all your protocols for months leading up to that, and I performed like how I performed, how I moved. I was really pleased. But when I stopped, my body went, "Oh, thank God you stopped." And it was almost like your buddy, was it Chris, the jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
Where you friggin' go, it's game day, and then the next day your body goes, "Oh, okay, thanks, we can go back to this." And then it's like, I notice that too when I teach or I got to do some stuff. As soon as I switch on, all that, the neural patterns and my relationship with the movement just puts the pain aside. And then, but what I realized when you're talking before, what you just said, is I've got to stop with a metaphoric flashlight looking for the pain. Just accept that it's in the fucking car with me on the ride. It's there.
It's not threatening you. No. I was just actually a really good one. Is a guy called Blaine Sumner, probably one of the strongest people on earth in history. Blaine's a good friend of mine, and we're working on something. Now, he's a guy who can squat, I think it was 515 kilograms, okay? You can work that out. It's pretty freaking heavy.
Heavy.
He
in pounds.
Have a play with that. And remember, he weighs about 200 kilos. So if you put the whole thing together, you got about 700 kilos there. That's about 1,500 pounds at least.
Jeez.
Now, Blaine stepped backwards when he was in the comp, and he stumbled slightly, recovered. He actually breaks his spine at that point, completes the squat. He broke a piece of the spine. Completes the squat, gets up, looks around. Yep, got all the white lights. But yeah, I mean, he actually fractured his spine on that lift. Now, we were working on it, some things 18 months later, and he said something about pain. And I said, about having some pain, I said, so tell me, when was the last time you actually didn't have pain? Because he was a college football athlete, and he laughed and he realized, of course I have pain every freaking day. It's what I've done all my life in high school onwards. Of course, something I feel. Yeah. It's not realistic to say that he should expect to not feel some pain.
Right.
But it's nothing that's going to get in your way.
Especially like certainly my audience, the cops, firefighters, military, martial artists, self-defense experts. I mean, we do some pretty abusive stuff on our bodies and borderline stupid. And then to go full circle to the beginning of the show, a lot of us, even if you're, like Dave Haynes, the police officer who posted, he's like, I would say a third of the classes he does, he's in his patrol car trying to capture that information in between shifts or on his way home or whatever. So even though, he's a defensive tactics instructor and he stays active and he moves, we're still forced to sit a lot. And, and
you've got to combat that. There's no other way around it. You've actually got to do something offensive against that. Yeah. And you're going to have to do more every year of your life. So if you're 40, get ready. By the time you're 45, you better be doing more work. By the time you're 50, you're going to be doing more work to make sure you move better. Because how many 90-year-olds you see running really well and moving really well? There ain't many of them.
Right.
But you can move really well if you roll the dice the right way, you got the right genetics there, but you do the work, you will be good.
Yeah.
But if you stop, you're going to get stiff. And that's a classic of the human spine. The human spine gets stiffer every year, but it doesn't hurt more every year. There's a sort of peak point around about the 50s, right? The 50s-ish for most normal human beings are maybe their peak pain years. And then the pain does actually tend to decrease. You just tend to get stiffer. Well, it's time to get some offense against that stiffness too.
Interesting.
Except for people who've beaten the crap out of themselves ever since they're young. Well, we're a different group.
Yeah. Gang, just for some perspective, I'm like 195 pounds. Here's a picture of Andrew, me, and Bob. And you could see...
that's how we live.
You could see that I'm significantly bigger than Andrew. Just kidding.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And by the way, you do know I do have body image dysmorphia. Ever since, I don't know, it just switched when I was a kid, but I wake up every morning smaller than Pee Wee Herman in my head.
Really?
So that's one of the things that, I've got a disorder.
Huh.
I just harnessed this disorder and made it a weapon. Yeah, I got a body image disorder, so I'm small. Okay, I'm going to try and get bigger. I'm going to try and get stronger. That's just my disorder. Embraced it and made a career out of it.
That's a good disorder to have.
It can be. Embrace your disorders.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. It's interesting because just that philosophy of it's so obvious. You stretching your hip flexor, you're trying to get that, and as opposed to strengthening the opposing group so that it brings back the balance.
Yeah, stretching has not solved any pain issue that I've ever met, but strengthening does. Yeah, it's better living through strength. That's exactly what we really look at. That's I think Chris Duffin told me that one. And there's an interesting human being. Chris can't feel pain.
Right.
And yeah, that's an interesting human being. I've met two of those in my life, and he's the first one who his inability to feel pain relates to neurological changes as a kid.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
For some.
Okay, what are some things? Let's wind this down, and you're always invited back on if launching something new or something that comes up or whatever. The biggest thing for those of you that are professionals out there, go check this out. Go do a little research on that. Elisa, pop up the website to the website link. Do I have to remove that? There you go.
Yeah.
Go to United Health.
You'll find me there.
Yeah, check that out. Go to, if you're not following Andrew on Instagram, you're on Instagram, go there and scour the stuff, because like every day
There'll be something.
There's some little exercise, and they're demoed very effectively, usually with Julie or some other athlete, and Julie's an athlete, but and is the course live or is it just launching?
It is realistically live, but it shouldn't be live for another week.
Okay.
But it's already there for people who are interested.
Okay.
The major real thing we got there, it's the basics will solve the problems that we really need to work with. And if professionals want to have success, just recognize that this is a Homo sapiens that should be on 2 feet, walking, running, and not sitting down very often. And the movement pattern that you move without load is very different to the movement pattern you have with load.
Right.
And you need to learn those differences and how to be effectively using calories and strength when taking the work off the passive system. Yeah, it's not really that tough. It only just took me, 25 years to figure it out.
Right.
See, the freaking obvious, it took forever.
And it's funny not to detract from that simplicity, but that's the same thing I share with people. when they are considering training with me in my organization, I go, well, like I've been studying violence, fear, and aggression for 43 years. You could probably figure it out too, but you're 50 now. So let's say you're smarter than me and you do it in 20 years. When you're 70, you can be teaching good shit, or you can train with me and we'll time collapse. And the expression I heard somebody use once is, how can you turn, decades into days?
That's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
And so we can take your 30 years and compress that into this course. So if you're in that industry or people in that community, please tag them or share this and let them know.
Yeah, the big thing there, I think what you said too, is that famous saying that you were handed on a piece of paper, which is, to what level of insufficiency are you prepared to accept?
Yeah.
And I know you don't accept any insufficiency in your life, and neither do I. And probably when people start to think about themselves, that's such an important statement. There you go. Locked them in. I like to.
There's a crazy echo in this room when my door's closed, so my dogs are being a little disruptive today.
I don't know. It sort of makes you sound like Barry White now.
Oh, nice. I love it. Okay, is there anything that we didn't talk about, Andrew, that you would like to share with my audience? Suggestions, recommendations, any thoughts?
I think it's just those simple things. Recognize that you are a hunter-gatherer now, not in a hunter-gatherer society. So you're going to have to imitate the movements, positions, postures. You better start walking if you're not walking very much. If you can run, it's even better. And they're two of the most basic patterns, which will probably save you spectacular problems. Because once you restore those movements to your body, that's a healthy way that your body actually receives nutrition through the discs. It was Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, who over 2,000 years ago said, walking is man's best medicine. Very simple thing to do, but guess what? That's the structure of your body. So realistically, make sure every day you do that bare minimum of get out and get yourself at least half an hour's walking. And if you want to restore the strength, look at my base 5 movements and let's grow your ass back and your abs.
I love it. Okay, my friend, thank you for sharing this insight. My favorite part of this was like a reminder of that philosophical, psychological side you bring to this very often dry, matter of fact. Somebody with a clipboard, do this exercise. Let me see you touch your toes, bend over. Okay, you need to do that, and there's no discussion or interaction with that, and it's everything. The mind navigates the body, and
it does, doesn't it? Huh?
Yeah,
it is. The biggest part of it is our reaction to both fear and pain is realistically the thing that's going to determine the outcomes.
Yeah.
So that's where we intersect, the intersection of fear and pain.
Yeah. And we need to talk more on that. I think there's an article we need to write, or a deeper talk on that. That's an interesting thing. And I want to go back and think about that. If in terms of referred pain, if oftentimes the pain you're feeling somewhere else is coming from somewhere else, then at a metaphysical level, that's imagined. It's an imagined, just like the psychological fear. It's not real. The danger might be real, but the fear and what you're doing is impacting how quickly you can start addressing the real problem.
Very much. You need to understand what the real problem is. Yep. You can't move forward until you have done the detective work that it takes.
I love it. Okay,
it's great to catch up, Super Tony. Man, it's always awesome.
Okay, hang out in the studio for a bit, and I'm going to say goodbye to everybody.
We'll be in the green room.
As you all know, like and share. Go to, if you're not following us on YouTube, please go do that. The YouTube live link is always somewhere floating around, and I appreciate all of you, and I will see you on the next show. Stand by.